And the bride and groom are about 90% finished, maybe 85 now, because I messed them up a little bit doing background. I worked on this, so a lot of this stuff is wet, which means I'm limited as to what I can do there. But I haven't done much work on these figures yet. So let's go ahead and do that. And as you might see from the title there, at the moment they're all dark blobs. I worked on this, so a lot of this stuff is wet, which means and the next step then is to do bits of light colored blobs. And I already want to pull up my photo reference. This is the iPad that I took pictures with at the wedding just 9 days ago. Yes, and as you can see, I have here a number of photographs of the guests. Just general, except for that one that's father and mother of the groom. That's important because I'm going to put that couple right there. And yeah, she is sleeveless, so that's important. All these others, now here's, as you can see, a group of men sitting around in their shirt sleeves, but earlier they had their jackets on. And this is early in the evening, so the men will all have their jackets on. But mainly I just want to see the colors that people are wearing. All right, that's enough. I'm not going to try to copy that. I just want to make sure I'm roughly paying a little bit of attention. All right, now, most of the people at this wedding were white, either Caucasian or Asian. The bride is Vietnamese, so there was a generous sprinkling of Vietnamese guests at the wedding, family members. Something over here is beeping and I don't know what it is. That's strange. All right. I'm starting out here with the easiest color to do, which is flesh tone. And as you can see, I'm painting very abstractly, very loosely, because I will be doing many, many, many layers of light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. That pretty much describes my entire painting process. Light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. Whether I'm painting clouds. Sorry, I don't know where. I hope that beep's coming from somewhere, not that you guys aren't hearing it. Whether I'm painting trees or faces or clouds, whatever it may be, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark is a good way to describe my overall painting process. Now, those marks right that I just made right there, they were purely abstract. They were not indicative of anything realistic. I put it this way, I've said this for years. I give my hands within a certain range. I give my hands permission to paint without my permission every once in a while. It's very hard to describe because, see, so right then I was premeditating and thinking about it. So those marks aren't quite as good as I would like. I'll leave that one. But usually it happens very spontaneously. All right, so I'm done with flesh tones, faces. You can say I think you can see, suddenly they look a lot more, or somewhat more, like like people, right? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is start doing some clothing color. And I have a funny habit. This is not something that you should imitate by any means, but I almost always start with a woman in red. In this case, I'm doing two women in red. Now I'm going to give these brushes a quick swish. Not completely clean them, just give them a quick clean, wipe them off, and I'm going to pick up purple. I don't know what kind of purple it is. Normally I use dioxazine, but I don't think that's what this is right now. So it's some other, it's in this drawer. I would have to look it up, but I'm not going to take time to do that. So I had red on my brushes, and my brushes are slightly dirty. So now I have reddish purple, reddish violet on my brushes. And with colors, of course, this bright, that is to say, red and now sort of a lavender, I'm pretty much focused on female clothing, right? I was going to say I rather doubt. No, I'm positive that there was not a man at this wedding reception wearing a red or lavender suit or sport coat, right? So I'm basically going to go around the color wheel. So I started with red. Let's go this way. Red, purple. What's next? Blue. Now, what kind of blue? Ultramarine or phthalo? Correct. Ultramarine. That's closer to, has more purple in it than phthalo, right? So I'm doing ultramarine. And at this point, yes, a man's shirt collar could be showing up. Once again, I have to look at my photographs because this is going to be the parents of the, going the wrong way, sorry, parents of the groom. And I want to, okay, so he's wearing dark blue and white shirt. Oh, good. And the groom's mother, and these are the people who are paying for this particular painting, the groom's parents. So I am sure to get them in there. So that's the correct color. I'll put a little bit of blue down here for his white shirt, the shady part. Yeah, I'll make this woman right here blue for now. She'll probably get some, maybe, although it looks pretty nice. Let me talk about, for a minute here, my manner of painting, and I mean that quite literally. The manner in which I move my hands, and of course I use two hands, as you probably well know. The manner in which I'm going to skip phthalo blue. I'm taking the blue that's already here and added something like a viridian green to it. So now I've got a deep blue-green on my brushes. And let's make this one right here. Okay, back to the way I am moving. This is a big issue for me. I'm very aware, very conscious of this principle. I teach this emphatically whenever I have the opportunity, online or in a painting class. Okay, so let me get red, purple, blue, green, blue. So now let's add some, just going to add some Naples yellow to this. This, what's already on my brushes. Naples yellow, of course, is a pale, opaque yellow. So now I have pale green on my brushes. All right, back to the manner in which I move, which I say I have great passion or conviction about. And this is for those of you who are wanting to be painters, wanting to be artists. Some of you are ready to hear this. The essence of good painting, the act of painting itself, the putting paint on the canvas, the essence of good painting, green, blue, yellow, orange. Yeah, I might make somebody here orange. The essence of good painting is making interesting marks. All right, let me say that again. The essence of good painting, by painting I mean putting paint on the canvas with brushes. Literally, the act of painting is the act of creating interesting marks. If you're doing good painting, that is. If you're not doing good painting, you're on the wrong channel. If your desire is your goal, if your goal is not to do good painting, you're on the wrong channel. Let me see, here's a woman wearing red. I'm going to add some orange to that. So the goal, your goal as a painter, is to make, I could say, beautiful marks. That kind of opens the door to all kinds of philosophical wrangling, so let's just avoid it. Let me just use a less inflammatory term and say your goal is to make interesting marks, all right? Human beings like to see interesting things. That's pretty simple. Okay, so I've gone around the color wheel, started with red, ended with orange. I skipped yellow. I didn't put any yellow clothing on anybody. You can thank me for that later. I'm going to take another spin around the color wheel exactly the same way. This time probably, generally speaking, a little bit more intense color. So now I've got a brighter red on my brushes. All right, back to the art of painting is the art of making interesting marks. Here's what I want to get to. And interesting marks, or beautiful marks, I'll go back to that terminology again, are the product of interesting movements. All right, so here I'm getting, don't interrupt me. You're a painter. The essence of putting paint on is making interesting marks. Interesting marks, I've mixed up a kind of a pink lavender color now. Interesting marks are made by interesting movements. The reason most now this has nothing to do with hyperrealism, and I do superrealism sometimes, as you may know if you follow me at all, but it is not my good artwork. That's just playing around artwork. Moving now to blue. Good marks are made by good movement. And most early journey beginner painters make ugly marks. Sorry, I'm being blunt. I did too, right? When I started at some point, I made ugly marks. And compared to some people, I still make ugly marks because they're so much better than I am. Be that as it may, I understand the principles and a fairly long ways down the road of being a painter with some understanding of the painting process. All right. I've got dark blue now in my brushes. So interesting marks are made by making interesting movements. And here I would compare interesting movements or good movements, whole movement, confident movements, ballet-ish, dance-like, bold movements, free movements, there's a good word. Spontaneous movements, that's a good word. All of these are, I'm just describing in somewhat more detail the big picture. Good paintings, good marks. Good marks come from good movements. And if you're a beginner or what I call usually call it early journey painter, you're early in your journey, what you should be focusing on is not so much the marks that are left behind on your canvas, but you should be looking actually at your body when it's moving, when you're painting. And if you'll forgive me for just a moment, let me demonstrate. I'm going to be mean for a minute, okay? But it's okay because I've warned you that I'm going to be mean. Quote unquote mean. All right, let me demonstrate how most early journey painters paint, how they move their body. I've been demonstrating for the last 10, 15 minutes how I move. Now, of course, I don't move like that when I'm doing this kind of detail. This is realism. That's a different matter altogether. But I call this show-off painting and good painting. This is good painting. This is show-off. This is not done yet, of course, but this is good painting. This is show-off painting. Let me demonstrate how most early journey painters paint. For one thing, I tend to call it tongue painting. Here's why. Get the picture? This is how most beginners paint. And just to be clear, these are butt ugly. I don't know why butt. They're butt ugly movements. They're stilted. They're stiff. They're insecure. They're worried. They're anxious. Because you're a beginner, that's why you're anxious. But as quickly as possible, you want to migrate in your painting movements from stilted, stiff, and scared to free, full, bold, dance-like, ballet-like. And you guys, yeah, I'm completely off screen. I've got one hand over my head, literally, like a ballet dancer while I'm using the word ballet. Now, your movements are going to be different from mine. You cannot imitate me. Don't take that hard, because you know what? I can't imitate you. That's glasses down. That's part of the beauty of being human beings. Every person is absolutely unique. Every person, everyone is unique, and we cannot even, if you try, well, you can try, and it takes hours, and it's a royal pain to try to imitate the way somebody else moves. But generally speaking, that is definitely not the road to good painting, by copying the way somebody else moves. You have to move like you, but you have to move like the good you who is free and confident and joyful. Oh, there's a good word, joyful. Joyful, joyful, joyful. That's how you paint well. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be in a good mood to paint well. You just have to understand how your body does work and move when you are joyful, and you paint as though your body was joyful. Now, again, this has nothing to do either with hyperrealism, nor does it have anything to do with the art establishment, the art dictated by, in the last 100, 200 years, by the Enlightenment, okay? Michael Basquiat, there's another 1950s painter, Some of you know who Michael Basquiat is. He's the darling, darling, darling. He was. He's dead, which is not unrelated, tragically, to the way he painted. He was not a happy person. So he made ugly marks. Willem de Kooning, also a very miserable person. So he painted. So, and again, that is not, I live on a different planet, a completely different planet from Willem de Kooning. And I am not a fan. That's a long story. I won't go into it right now. If you like Willem de Kooning, bless you. You're okay. I'll let you like him. I won't wax eloquent. If I were to wax eloquent, it would be mostly a tirade against the Enlightenment. And some of you are trying to, what does the Enlightenment have to do with the way somebody moves their brush? All right. That's as far as I'm going to go with that for the moment. Let's go back to, so I've done about as much as I care to do with these people right now. As you can see, I've blobbed on or fuzzed color. They are not done yet. The next layer will be what? Did you remember? This was light. The next one's going to be dark. Correct. Now, dark could be pencils. Those are dark, right? Wow. Did you see that? I didn't plan to do that. My hand did that all by itself. That's very hard to describe. If my hand did that all the time, my paintings would be, they'd look like Willem de Kooning's, which is, would not be beautiful. Willem de Kooning was not by any means. He was dead set against creating beauty. He was creating expression, expressiveness, blah, blah, blah. All right. So I could, just demonstrating the dark could be pencils, but it'll be mostly dark paint. While let me get my canvas down, or my easel down a little bit though. Let me do a little bit on these, well, on everything up here, just for a minute. So my figures, to be clear, I'll be going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. Each layer just a little bit more realistic than the layer before. Does that make sense? My painting, and then you don't have to paint like me, but you do have to come up with your own solution. You do not need, by any means, you do not need to use my techniques to produce good paintings, but you do need to figure out how you're going to create interesting marks, interesting lines, interesting colors, interesting shapes, interesting textures, right? All interesting composition. You do have to figure that out. And you don't have to do it the same way I do, but you have the same problems I do. How are you going to create interesting texture? How are you going to create interesting color? How are you going to create interesting composition? How are you going to create interesting line shape, interesting lines, right? So you and I, we're all in the same boat. And what I'm showing to you, of course, is the techniques that I have evolved for me over the decades for answering these questions. How am I going to create interesting line? And of course, I have changed quite a bit over the decades. I continue to evolve. I hope I continue to improve. If I'm not improving, don't tell me. I'm enjoying the illusion that I'm still getting better. I hope I die still in that illusion, if that's what it is. All right, one of the things I do want to do work on real soon is these chandeliers. So there we go. Whoops. No sooner do I say that than I make it disappear. Again, all right, there's a chandelier. So I do pull that up, and if you happen to catch the episode that I did earlier today, you might remember that I darkened everything in this painting and then lightened right here. So I darkened the chandeliers, in fact. And now I'm doing light, so I'm going the opposite direction at the moment than I did earlier. But everything is relative. I don't want these to become huge, huge elements, even though they're light sources, so they're prominent, of course, in the context. Oh, and there's some sconces on the wall. I was debating whether to keep them or not, but I think I will. There's actually a sconce right between Chris and Alexa that I am definitely not going to include. We'll just pretend those sconces weren't there. There was a sconce here. We'll see. You know, sconces are little, 3 globe light, on a wrought iron fixture or something like that on the wall. Going to a slightly darker color. Again, the trick here is to render these chandeliers so that they look like chandeliers. And chandeliers, of course, are lights, right? But I can't have them dominating the scene because that just doesn't work. I decided early in the day, and I believe, whoops, hang on, let me hang on just a second. I didn't realize I'd gone off frame here a little bit for you. Be with you in a second. There we go. I decided to make the blue light the primary light source in the painting, especially around the bride and groom, of course. And then all the internal lights are secondary. Now, there's some candles on the table, and believe it or not, this is a table down here. So I'll indicate candles, but those will stay quite dark because I don't want, that's way down in the corner. I don't want candle light down here. No, very subtle. Also, there will be some candles on the bride and groom's table. That's what this is back here. Hang on, I did a little bit on the cake. At the moment, I am not seeing, it's somewhere else. I won't waste your time looking for the cake at the moment. Well, I'll blow it up here. All right, there we go. So that's my, at the moment, I have a better one, I think, but that'll do for the moment. I wanted to see, are there any candles? Ooh, there are candles around the cake. Good. I like it. And as you can already tell, the cake table is going to be a fairly significant, this has to do with composition, right? Is a fairly significant second or tertiary point of interest. Primary, maybe secondary, tertiary to the table, and then everything else is, I would call background. All right, I'm going to do just a little bit more before I hang up from this broadcast, and that is I'm now mixing up some Naples yellow and titanium white. So I have a lighter color, not light enough, lighter color on my brushes and fairly thick paint so that I can make some of the lights on the chandelier look like they're glowing. Now the chandeliers as well, pretty much everything I paint goes through this cycle, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, right? So at the moment, as you can see, I am applying light to the chandelier, to the chandeliers. That means almost certainly my next go round, they look quite a bit like chandeliers right now, don't they? My next go round will be dark details. But while I've got this very pale yellow-orange color on my brushes, I'm going to do the top of the cake table. The tablecloth on the cake table, and again I have a photograph. It was quite interesting. First of all, there's two layers, very, very, very common. The under tablecloth and the over tablecloth. The one on top is, there's a name for it, I'm sure. It's like little flaps, petals of fabric about this big, size of a leaf, the size of a rose petal, perhaps. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to look like. So it was all frilly, 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 frilly. And while I'm over here, I will do. Oh, I want those candles to be a little more smudgy, a little more glow. And of course, if you want an object in your painting to look like it's glowing, that means the light is diffuse, goes out from the center. That's why you saw me do the chandelier bulbs, medium orange brown, and then lighter orange brown on top of that. All right, I'll do just one more thing, I think, before I go. The cake, and all I have at the moment is this photograph to look at. The cake actually looks kind of bluish. And I'm going to go with that. So I'm believing my eyes. And I remember looking at it when I was there saying, that's an interesting color. It was. It was not a typical cake color. It was almost white. But I would say with undertones of blue. All right, I hope all the painting that I'm doing now, I'm going to pick up some ultramarine right now. Again, especially if you happen to be an early journey painter, I'm hoping you're looking at the way that I'm painting and you should be saying something like, wow, I wouldn't have done it that way. Right? First of all, most of you, sad to say, in spite of my 15-year exhortation, are not painting with two hands, although you should, because you paint better if you employ your non-dominant hand. That's all I'm going to say about that right now. I'm going to mix up a lighter blue. The flowers around the cake are definitely an ultramarine or purplish blue, or lavenderish blue, not phthalo blue. So I've got, again, almost lavender, ultramarine blue. There were two little cute little figurines on top of the cake, and if I do them at all, there's some pencil lines there indicating them. I'm going to keep them very abstract. The cake table and the cake is just about finished. I'm going to stop there for right now. While I've got this blue on this lovely, kind of a periwinkle blue, slightly purplish, which is because it's ultramarine, right? Ultramarine is a purplish blue. There were the flowers, of course, the florists, of course, as always, did a marvelous job, and everything was coordinated. I don't think I've ever seen a wedding where the flowers weren't beautiful and the florist didn't do a good job. I'm sure it has happened, but I don't remember ever seeing one. And I've done hundreds of weddings. I don't remember ever seeing one that didn't have beautiful flowers. Flowers, well done. All right. I'm just having a little too much fun. Nope, that's too bright, too light, too bright. Let me mix up some darker stuff. What you're seeing right now, and the principle of painting, if you will, that I'm manifesting right now, is everything is painted in layers and stages. Layer plus layer plus layer on top of layer on top of layer, and allowing underlayers to show through, of course. It doesn't make any sense to do layer, 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 layer if every layer obliterates the one before. No. You let much of the underlayers, the underpainting, continue to show through. So that's what, right now, I'm just doing an additional touch on these blue outdoor windows. All right. I think this is a good place for me to stop. These figures down here, I will probably literally sit down and draw this man and this woman at some point and make sure that I've got them anatomically correct. Not detailed, just correct. All right, that's a good place for me to stop. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. Hope that was fun. Let me see. Oh, there's people leaving comments. Hello, Uncle 60. Young man, thank you. Hello, Mark Toomey. Good news today. I've been having unbelievable technical issues. Spending money, studying, anyway. But this is my second broadcast today without technical issues. So I'm greatly encouraged that things are going well. Hello, Jane. Oh, look, it's like a family reunion around here. Excellent, Jane. So good to hear from Uncle Mark and Jane. Bless you guys. Those of you who are new might recognize. I don't have a lot of followers. I just have the best ones. We have a lot of fun and have done so for many, many, many years together. And I've been saying for years that I'm going to start broadcasting again. And it is finally happening. I've been working to overcome many technical issues and have overcome many of them. That's the reason I think this broadcast is working well. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks for your chats and your comments. And I'll look forward to seeing you again really soon. Bye-bye.